Hello everyone. Thank you for joining into the first webcast of our three-part webcast series on SPACs. SPACs have been used as an alternative investment vehicle for quite some time, but it's only until recently that they've gained immense popularity as seasoned investors and management teams have started turning to SPACs to mitigate the increased market volatility risks involved in a traditional IPO. Today we have with us Rupam, our capital markets leader, who will take us through the SPACs landscape and provide us with the top 5 fundamentals involved in a SPACs transaction.
Today, we are here to talk about special purpose acquisition companies, also otherwise known as SPACs. The concept of SPACs has been in existence since the early 2000s, but they have gained immense popularity in the last 1 year. So, what exactly is a SPAC? What would make some companies pick a SPAC over an IPO? And why are investors so keen to get involved in these transactions? Today, we will answer all these questions and address the top 5 things to know about SPAC transactions. First, let's talk about SPACs and understand what they are. A special purpose acquisitions company is essentially a shell company set up by investors with the sole purpose of raising money through an IPO to eventually acquire another company. So, a SPAC has no commercial operations. It does not make any products or sell any services. In fact, the only significant assets on a SPAC's balance sheet is the money that it has raised in its own IPO. That's also why a SPAC is often called a blank check company. It's because at the time of the SPAC IPO, the people buying into the company do not know what the eventual acquisition target company will be. This is where the founders come into the picture who convince people to invest in the unknown. Let's quickly understand the difference between a SPAC merger and a traditional IPO as well. SPACs provide speed and certainty through a faster timeline in the IPO process. Transactions are conducted on a predetermined price, which makes it a less vulnerable process. It is also an easier option for non-traditional businesses whose potential value might not be easily accessible in the open market. All in all, SPACs are clearly becoming the route of choice for private companies to access public capital markets in the upcoming future. Next, let's understand the key players in a SPAC formation and the merger process. And of course, answer the most important question of what's in it for them. First, let's talk about the founders. Usually a SPAC is created or sponsored by a team of highly experienced institutional investors or Wall Street professionals who have experience in building and managing companies. Of late, even high-profile CEOs like Richard Branson have formed their own SPACs. These sponsors purchase founders' shares at the inception of a SPAC and pay nominal consideration for about 20% ownership stake in the outstanding shares at the time of completion of the SPAC's IPO. This is then converted into a corresponding stake in the acquired business at the completion of the merger with the target. SPAC sponsors also have a deadline which they have to deal with, during which they have to find a suitable target, which is typically about 2 years from the date of the IPO. Otherwise, a SPAC gets liquidated and the investors get their money back with interest. Next, let's understand the investors. Investors purchase the SPAC share in an IPO, which is usually priced at $10 a share, with the prospect of gaining returns on their investment through increase in share prices. The money is placed into an interest-bearing trust account until the SPAC's founders or management team finds a private company to merge with. Once an acquisition is made, which also requires the SPAC shareholders to approve the deal, the SPAC's investors can either swap their shares for shares of the merged company, or they can redeem their shares to get back their original investment plus any accrued interest. Both investors and sponsors also commonly get warrants to get additional shares in the merged companies at the time of acquisition. Finally, let's understand the target. Now, a target is a private company and more commonly startups that is looking for liquidity or a way to go public. This entity will merge with the SPAC in a process that is typically called a de-SPAC transaction. The benefits for the target in these transactions come from Number one being reduction in time, money, and efforts to go public. Number two being an access to already raised capital and liquidity that is sitting in the trust. And number three being access to professional expertise for the process through an alliance with the seasoned professionals in the form of sponsors. Next, let's look at some trends and statistics in the SPAC deals. SPACs have raised a record of 83.3 billion in 2020, which is an increase of 513% from the amount raised in 2019. So far in 2021, this year, the proceeds stand at about 135 billion or 1.6 times of what they raised in 2020. There are 478 new SPACs listed in 2021 and 248 got listed in 2020, which makes up for about 76% of the total SPAC IPOs since 2009. An average deal size of a SPAC transaction currently stands at about $281.3 million. As we speak, around 483 SPACs are still looking for target companies. And looking at it from an industry standpoint, a large majority of SPACs are in the technology, media, and telecommunications sector, followed by healthcare and life sciences. Now, looking at it from a future perspective, most of the SPACs currently looking for targets have an average timeline of 19 to 24 months to complete the acquisition and range between $200 to $400 million in terms of deal size. Next, let's look at a typical life cycle in a SPAC merger and understand the important milestones. At the time of formation, the founders play a significant role in devising the SPAC strategy and form the board of the SPAC. They pay a nominal amount in exchange for founders' shares, which is also known as promote, and lend some money to the SPAC to pay any pre-IPO expenses. At the time of the IPO, a SPAC commonly files a Form S1 with the SEC, which is typically a 2 to 3 month process. The SPAC issues units, including shares plus warrants, that separate after the closing and trade individually on the exchange. For an additional few $1 million, founders have the opportunity to get warrants to additional holding at the time of the de-SPAC. Any offering expenses such as legal, underwriter, or audit fees are paid out of the proceeds, and the rest is placed in a trust account. Next comes the target search process, which is where most of the SPACs are struggling right now. The value must be at least 80% of SPAC's funds in the trust. A few characteristics that are essential are good internal controls and financial reporting, experienced management, strong business strategy, and a compelling outlook that makes targets attractive to SPACs. Once a target is finalized, begins the testing the waters process, where a proxy or S4 is filed with the SEC and the shareholders are notified of their upcoming vote. The vote must meet pre-specified thresholds, which is typically a 60 to 80% approval rate, and any shareholder can choose to claim their holding back at the time of closing. A yes vote means the acquisitions will close. A no means that the trust will be liquidated and money will be returned to the investors. Once the closing happens, a Super 8K must be filed within 4 business days of the closing, post which the SPAC and the target now become a single combined operating company. The founders and investors get holding in the combined company shares, which are now exchange-traded securities. Finally, a key aspect to also understand is PIPE financing. PIPE stands for Private Investment in Public Equity. Sponsors seek additional investment before acquisition of the target to raise additional capital from institutional investors and increase the amount of money in the trust account. PIPE financing happens once a target is identified to make sure that there is enough funds available and reduce the dilution impact of the founders' shares and warrants that get redeemed. Investment is usually made at the combined valuation of the SPAC and target's business. Investors are often offered subscription prices that are expected to be at a discount to the market prices. PIPE investors commit capital and take on the risk based on their confidence around the investment opportunity and the returns that are promised to them due to the reduced subscription prices as compared to the market prices. With this, we have covered our agenda and come to the end of our first webcast.
Thanks, Rupam, for sharing your insights with us. I would like to take a moment here to quickly summarize the key takeaways from today's webcast. We discussed about SPACs, the key players involved in SPACs, and what is there for each of them in a SPACs transaction. We also discussed about the rapid surge in SPAC transactions in the past few years, the life cycle of a SPACs merger, and the basics of PIPE financing. We hope you had an enriching learning experience with us and look forward to having you in part 2 of our webcast series. Thank you.